Rain pattered against the cobblestone streets as Evelyn Carter ducked into an antique shop. The doorbell chimed faintly, and the scent of old wood and dust filled the air. She was only here to kill time, browsing for a piece to add character to her new apartment. The shop was cluttered, dimly lit, and full of oddities: weathered clocks, porcelain dolls with cracked faces, and faded paintings whose subjects seemed to watch her every move. Her fingers grazed over an ornate mirror in the corner, its frame carved with serpents and roses so intricately detailed they seemed alive. "You've chosen poorly," a raspy voice startled her. The shopkeeper, an old man with sunken eyes, stepped out from the shadows. "This mirror," he said, lowering his voice, "isn't just glass. It reveals truths best left unseen." Evelyn chuckled nervously. "Perfect. I'm a journalist. The truth is kind of my thing." Ignoring his warning, she bought the mirror and took it home. That evening, as Evelyn unpacked her purchase, she studied the carvings. The serpents seemed to twist under her touch, their glassy eyes glinting in the light. Shrugging off the odd sensation, she mounted the mirror on the wall. At first, the strangeness was subtle. The reflection seemed to linger a heartbeat longer than it should. One night, as Evelyn brushed her hair, she saw a faint figure behind her, just for a second. She spun around, her heart racing. Nothing. She began having vivid dreams. A woman in a white dress, running through a dark forest, blood on her hands. "I didn't do it," she screamed, her voice echoing. Evelyn always woke up drenched in sweat, her eyes drawn to the mirror. The next morning, she told her best friend, Lila, about the strange occurrences. "You bought a haunted mirror?" Lila laughed, sipping her coffee. Classic horror movie mistake. Evelyn smiled, but deep down, unease gnawed at her. Determined to prove it was all in her head, she started researching the mirror's history. She discovered it once belonged to the Holloway family, a wealthy dynasty destroyed by scandal. Margaret Holloway, the family matriarch, had been accused of poisoning her husband and executed for the crime in 1863. But the records were strange. Margaret always claimed she was framed. Evelyn was hooked. As a journalist, unraveling mysteries was her calling. But this one was different. That night, the mirror's behavior intensified. Reflections of her apartment flickered to life inside it. But something was always off. The lighting was wrong. Shadows moved where there shouldn't be any. Then came the visions. The mirror showed her Margaret's life in flashes. Margaret on her wedding day, radiant and laughing. Margaret in the grand Holloway mansion. Her joy fading as a shadowy figure loomed behind her. Evelyn saw betrayal, anguish, and finally Margaret being dragged from the house in chains. Evelyn couldn't ignore it anymore. The mirror wasn't just a relic, it was alive. She translated the cryptic poem etched into its frame. "Truth lies beyond the glass, but beware the price it demands." Now the mirror's focus shifted. It wasn't just showing Margaret's life, it was showing Evelyn's. She saw herself years ago betraying a friend by exposing their affair in a story. The fallout had been catastrophic, leading to the friend's divorce and eventual suicide. Evelyn stared at the mirror, horrified. It wasn't just Margaret's guilt trapped in the glass, it was hers too. Desperate for answers, Evelyn tracked down Daniel Holloway, Margaret's last living descendant. His mansion was crumbling, overrun by ivy and shadows. "The mirror cursed our family," Daniel explained, his voice heavy. "It doesn't just reflect, it forces you to confront the truths you've buried." Evelyn asked how to break the curse. Daniel hesitated. "You can't destroy it," he said. "The only way out is through. Confess your truth. But beware. The mirror always takes something in return." Evelyn returned to her apartment, determined to end this once and for all. She stood before the mirror, its surface rippling like water. It showed her Margaret's final moments. Her husband's brother, Edward, planting evidence, bribing witnesses, and ensuring Margaret's execution to claim the family fortune. Margaret had been innocent all along. The mirror turned its gaze back to Evelyn. It replayed her darkest moment, the article, the fallout, her friend's broken life. The glass whispered her name, demanding her confession. Evelyn fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I was wrong," she cried. "I destroyed someone's life for a story. I can't take it back, but I won't run from it anymore." The mirror's surface cracked, and a deafening wail filled the room. Spirits, Margaret's and others trapped over the years, were released in a blinding flash of light. Evelyn shielded her face as the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. When she opened her eyes, the room was silent. The curse was broken. But Evelyn knew she was changed forever. Weeks later, she published her story, The Holloway Curse, a journalist's dark truth. She wrote it as both an exposé and a confession, dedicating it to Margaret. As she typed the final words, she caught her reflection in the laptop screen. For a moment, it smiled, just a little too knowingly.